Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've actually got a little helper behind me. As you can see here, we have my mother-in-law's cat, whose name is Sam, or Samush, is actually chilling behind me. Hopefully he's going to give me good luck in the game today, although it's pre-recorded, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to change the fates through some kind of magical, mystical cat mystery, right? One thing that isn't a mystery is the Progetto 65. This is the tier 10 Italian medium tank, and at one stage I would go as far as to say this was my favorite tank inside the game. However, Wargaming decided that the vehicles were a little too good, and they nerfed the Italian auto-reloading medium tanks with regards to their gun handling to make them a lot less convenient. However, they're still pretty darn decent, as you're going to be seeing in the gameplay today, where we are going to have to push it to the max, where we're going to be tested to our limits to try and take down this game. Alright, so I was thinking maybe I should go and pressure the CS63 inside the dip there, but instead I get caught by a Progetto to my flank, decide to put one round into them and immediately aim at where the CS63 might come after us. And it's always interesting when you discover how well Wargaming think about lines of fire, at least on certain positions. As we can clearly see, we're unable to shoot up through the archway because of the bricks positions there. If we could, wow, that would have been an insane position to be able to go after the Progetto 65, but that's not the case. So the Italian auto-reloading medium tank, I haven't featured it on the channel in a couple of years. Seems a bit bizarre, but back in 2018 it was really all I would want to play, and all I would really want to talk about is Italian auto-reloaders. Doesn't mean that I don't enjoy playing the tank now, but there have definitely been other vehicles that have gone into the game that have really competed hard with a vehicle like this. Especially considering there's so many heavy auto-loaders in the game. Ones that are also very fast now, when with buffs to the Kranvang, buffs to the 50B. A vehicle like this kind of struggles in the current meta, especially with the nerfs to the tank. And while it's pretty darn good in a variety of situations, because of its flexible nature and the availability for you to be able to reload the shells one by one, I think the main thing that just holds this tank back is its awful damage per minute. And then again, when I say awful, it's not nearly as bad as the Rinoceronte, for example, the tier 10 Italian auto-reloading heavy. Although you could argue with the alpha damage that vehicle has, and also the ability to be able to have the shell compensation if you have to fire early, then that vehicle kind of has the same or effective DPM as the Progetto, unless you are literally firing the shells one by one over the battle. So I decided to change out the rounds that I was firing here, because I thought that I would need the high explosive anti-tank magazine for the IS-7. Unfortunately for me, I don't manage to fully reload, and that means that my DPM now plummets. Every time you fire in the Progetto, the subsequent round takes an additional 2 seconds to be able to reload the deeper that you go into the magazine, starting off with 10 seconds, then 12, 14, and then the final shell, or when you're reloading when you're completely empty, it's a 16-second reload, which is absolutely horrendous considering that the alpha damage on this tank is 360. Nevertheless, I still stand by what I did there. I wish I had intuition on this tank, so I could have quickly reloaded at least one of the 4 shells, which is the one that takes the longest to be able to reload in that scenario. But I feel like my Progetto 65 setup is a little bit outdated. I don't have any of the field mods, and so I'm using coated optics. I would probably recommend most players to use a commander's vision system if you're using a premium consumable and you have an experienced crew on the tank. And also, you know, just don't have that magical intuition, something that I think was probably one of the worst skills in the game, and now is definitely one of my faves. Even in my auto-reloaders, even in my auto-reloaders, because you can manage to at least change magazines, and then you've already got one of the shells pretty much auto-loaded into the vehicle before you have to then reload the faster rounds. Alright, so better to still reload and change to have the heat magazine, I feel, in this situation, and I stand by what I did. Because now I've got that full heat mag loaded and I can come around the corner, I can pressure the IS-7. And this IS-7, they're doing a really good job in trying to hide their lower plate, but what they don't realize in this scenario, with the great high explosive anti-tank rounds that this tank has, with I believe 330 millimeters of penetration, that we can just shoot through their upper hull when they are angled towards us like that, because it's actually very weak on the IS-7 when they are angling in that way. So we've managed to just fight back through this flank. We've got this Leopard prototype who's Prototype A, who's working with us behind. But it's not done yet. I'm going to have to go after a Progetto 65, who thankfully is a one-shot. I have to go after a CS63, and we're going to have to go after a Leopard prototype as well. And in this situation, I just felt like if I've got the opportunity to dump out the magazine, why wouldn't I? I come around the corner, I take the chancy shot, but I know that I'm going to be able to have a second one if I miss the Progetto 65. And while I'm making my DPM worse in this scenario, I'm also able to fully switch out to APCR because I'm starting to actually run low on my high explosive anti-tank rounds. And more importantly, I've managed to get the CS63 and the Leopard down to a one-shot apiece, which should allow us to be able to engage them quite effectively. Okay, so we're just going to come around the corner. I really can't imagine that these players are going to make their way over here. And I just want to try and control this engagement. I'm going to just guard this location while I manage to reload because I don't really want to get caught with no rounds in the tank. But oh my word, Leopard prototype, what are you doing? Well, I just decide if I've got an opportunity to put some pressure on him, let's do that. We shut him down, we reload, we fully aim, we get another shot into the CS63, but unfortunately they were able to shut down our 60 TP. So maybe I should have fired a little bit earlier there, but it's tricky. If I fired early, then I would have only had one round in the vehicle. And if I'd missed that, then I would have had an awful reload to try and deal with that tank. So I think I stand by with holding the shell there to fully aim the shots. And that's just where this tank is not nearly as good as it used to be with its 2.5 second aim time. I believe it was 2.3 or was it even 2.1 back in the day? It was pretty outrageous. So I'm going to allow my shell to fully reload before I fire here, because I don't want to go that low into the magazine. And I actually decide to not fire at the STRV-103B there because I don't really feel too threatened. And I feel that if I dump out my rounds here, I won't ever be able to recover them to be able to do what I need to do. Okay, interesting scenario. While I'm trying to provide some view range with the coated optics on this tank against all of the vehicles that are advancing, we have a full health Jagdtiger appear on our left, who also looks like they have the field mods on that tank as they have 2,270 hit points. Or are they just using the durability module and maybe they don't have the field mods on that vehicle? I'm showing my lack of knowledge there actually. But I'm just waiting in this bush, hoping that my team are going to be able to put some fire out. And I hope this Jagdtiger also goes away. If the Jagdtiger goes away, maybe I can get some cross shots. And luckily the UDES 16 shuts down the STRV-103B that we were spotting. And I'm keeping this eye on this Jagdtiger in case I get spotted. But this is really what I wanted to wait for. The low health Drake tank's now advancing, and this is where we're going to unleash our Progetto ambush. 1 kill, 2 kills, another shell into the E50, and a 4th shell into the E50 as well. And now we're going to start reloading high explosive anti-tank rounds here to hopefully be able to use them to go after the Jagdtiger. Unfortunately for me, the Jagdtiger finishes off the UDES 15-16 and the E50 shuts down the GWE 100. So what I want to do in this scenario is hopefully just reset, not get spotted by the Jagdtiger, and hopefully I can go after the E50. So I actually decide to start reloading APCR rounds here because I've only got 4 high explosive anti-tank rounds, and so that wouldn't work out too well for me. But wow, what a surprise. The E50 actually decides to just rush straight through instead of playing carefully in that scenario. I guess he wants to finish off the Leopard prototype. And then I get spotted in the worst possible location, so I have to make evasive maneuvers into the dip. And I realize I can't stay here. There's no way to be able to use this location to get out from here. And if I just sit in the dip, the longer that I take, the quicker the Jagdtiger is going to be able to get into position to be able to punish me, or the artillery is just going to dump on the Leopard prototype. So, well played to the E50. I really did not expect them to make their way into that position, and I've just got to get out of here. I've been caught in an awful position, and I'm going to have to sacrifice hit points while hopefully still managing to get out. So we're going to put 1 round into the Jagdtiger on the move, look to see what the E50 is doing, worry about the fact that there is a near full health Jagdtiger above me that I'm going to have to deal with somehow, and also just hope that the artillery are going to miss me. So it's all about resetting right now. I've got to try and get my opponents at a distance. I've got to try and either isolate the E50 or focus the Jagdtiger or go and try and deal with the artillery. And unfortunately for me, this Jagdtiger is voracious and just keeps managing to catch me just as I'm about to reset my vision. And so that means that we're probably going to take a bit of artillery damage. Or not. Okay, I'm looking towards where the artillery fired, and I'm thinking, shall I make my way up left and around, or shall I try and take my opportunity to go into the town, where then my opponents aren't going to be able to have a crossfire on us? And so I decide to go into the town. However, in retrospect, I think it might have been a better play to maybe make my way up around here. But I'm not thinking about the Jagdtiger right now. What I'm thinking about is trying to go after the 50. So unfortunately for me, the Jagdtiger pops up on the ridge. The Jagdtiger is not quite going to spot me, so maybe that was a bit of a misplay by me to shoot at the GWE 100 because the Jagdtiger hadn't spotted me at that opportunity. I'm going to fire another round there into the side of the Jagdtiger, or in the front of the Jagdtiger, as I should say, and start reloading again. And I'm going to need 3 rounds to be able to deal with this Jagdtiger, as they have 1,087 hit points. Alright, so actually I'm going to need 4 rounds 50% of the time and 3 rounds 50% of the time in this scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go to the edge of the map. I don't think I have time to go all the way to the edge, and so I'm going to just cut through here. And this blooming Jagdtiger is charging me down once again, and oh dear. Wow, Jagdtiger misses. I've got a full magazine loaded. We're going to put 1 in, 352, come on, high roll. 402, this is almost guaranteed to kill him, right? Wrong. Oh my lord, thank goodness the Jagdtiger misses us there, and I start reloading high explosive anti-tank rounds. Wow. Fate seems to be smiling upon me as we finish destroying over half of the enemy team. We pick up our Radley Walters medal, but you know what? We've got to try and go for this. We've got to try and take down the W. We've got to see if we can try and deal with this E50, who is on half hit points. But right now, all I'm thinking about is trying to get the reset. I've got to be aggressive. I think he's going to be all the way around the corner, and oh my lord, he's actually not all the way around the corner. Put a round into his lower plate, and nice shot, E50. Shuts me down. And unfortunately, while we dealt 8,000 damage and we got 1,800 assistance, it wasn't quite enough to be able to reset and then go long range because of the pressure that the E50 had on the cap, which I probably think was the right thing to do in this scenario. It forced me to have to play aggressively and to lose hit points against the Jagdtiger because I knew I didn't have enough time to be able to handle all of those German tank destroyer hit points and then be able to get back to be able to reset the cap. One of the most important things that you can do in World of Tanks is to review your decision making. And in this scenario, I want to talk about what my thought process was, because I feel like this was where, with this amount of hit points, I got 1,370 hit points, that I probably should have been able to handle this situation when I'm a top tier tank. My thought process was as follows. There's no way the E50 is just going to YOLO out into the open to go after my Leopard prototype, as I would be able to shoot them. So I thought that he's going to camp in this corner. And what I don't want to happen in this situation is to have the Jagdtiger get into a position to be able to proxy spot me that will allow the E50 to be able to get some crossfire into me. And so my thought process here was, as quickly as possible, try and go and support the Leopard prototype and maybe try and sneak in to the buildings along here to engage the E50, who I knew that when I'd finished fully reloading, I'd be able to take them out into a single magazine. I personally don't think the play at this stage was to go after the Jagdtiger with the artillery support. That's just asking for a world of hurt. Plus, I have to try and engage the Jagdtiger at long range, and there wasn't enough space towards the west of the Jagdtiger around here to really be able to engage him effectively, unless you could argue that I went hull down against him in these scenarios. My gut instinct at the time was get out of the crossfire and try and isolate an opponent. Unfortunately, what I hadn't considered was that the E50 was going to just charge straight out into the open, had no idea where I was. I had an unfortunate situation where I get spotted in the side as well by the E50 through these bushes, and then my evasive maneuvers of going into the dip. This is the part of the game where I showed my inexperience. I had no idea that you couldn't sneak your way up this side of the dip. And if I had, what I should have done in this situation is I should have hard turned, just gone up here, gone around, tried to get out of this dip as quickly as I could, and just not sit in there. This moment was where I lost the game. This faffing, this indecisiveness for about 10-15 seconds until I realized that that was a complete death trap. And it's just my inexperience in the map. And I'll never make that mistake again. And this is one of the most important things that you can all do. Learn from your mistakes, accept where you've made them, and learn the different positions that counter others. Another mistake I believe I made at the end of this game was that I thought that I was going to get spotted by the Jagdtiger in this scenario. I never should have fired here, because then I lost all of the hit points that I needed for later on in the battle. Although you could argue, is that going to be the last chance I get to be able to shoot the arty? I still think that I had enough time. I was really worried about the artillery managing to get into one of these dip locations over here, but as we can see with his positioning, he wasn't actually trying to get into this safe location, which I thought he was at the time. That was what my instincts were. Destroy the artillery while I have the chance before they get into the safe location. But in retrospect, it actually would have been better, knowing that I wasn't spotted by the Jagdtiger, to be able to get into a safe position here and fire twice at the artillery, and I could have saved those 500 hit points. What really confused me in this game was just how relentless this Jagdtiger was. You see him constantly charging out into the open, constantly applying pressure, and that is what confused me in this scenario. I expected that the Jagdtiger might be sitting behind the ridge, not trying to expose himself, and because the player was about 100 or 200 meters away from where I thought he was, that of course means that he spotted me in this scenario, so I can't sneak on to get the E50 to be able to isolate him. So, well played to the Jagdtiger for the relentless aggression, and well played to the E50 for forcing me to have to unload the damage on the Jagdtiger in this scenario, non-safely because of the pressure that they put on the cap circle. All in all though, this was a real fun game of World of Tanks. It's not every day you do 8,000 damage and get 8 kills in a Progetto 65, but GG, well played to the enemy team for applying that pressure and finishing me off. And unfortunately for me, knowing what was going to happen this one, not even Sam the cat could be able to save me from having to watch that heartbreak again. So an ace tanker here for our Progetto 65 for our 971 base experience. Now you might think that that's low, but that's without courageous resistance being applied because of the battle hero medals. So this would have actually been 1,500 base experience if we had managed to pick up a win. We got a Rantley Walters medal for destroying 8 players on the enemy team, a tank sniper medal for dealing damage at long distance, a defender medal for getting those 99 base defense points with a last second interrupt on the E50. Unfortunately not enough to be able to win the game, however, and a high caliber for the 7,989 damage that we dealt. We did fire a lot of high explosive anti-tank rounds here, however, so we didn't even make a profit with a premium account, so keep that in mind. So all in all, the Progetto 65, do I think that it's a bit of a stinker in 2022? No, I think it's a decent tank, and if you know how to play your Italian auto-reloaders, you can still do very well in it. Nevertheless, there's no doubts with the nerfs to the vehicle, albeit a good time ago now, combined with the fact that heavy tanks are just becoming so much more meta, and all of the auto-loading heavy tanks seem to be just so darn strong. This kind of vehicle's place as a very unique example in World of Tanks is definitely suffering as the years go by. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this battle. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, later on today, there will be the inaugural Tech Tree Showcase for the Yo heavy tanks. And so if you want to see me play all of those new American heavy vehicles with the reserve track mechanic, then come along. I'll let you know everything there is to know about the tech tree with gameplay as well. And hopefully we can kick some butt with the tier 10 M5Y. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you live later on today, or right now, depending on when you watch this video after it's released, on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.